Pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar. Founded in 2008 and headquartered in California, Alcor Solutions is a global cloud advisory and implementation services company serving clients in multiple geographies, including North America, Europe, Japan, and India. Our consultants provide advice to leading businesses on cloud platforms, architecture, enterprise service management, and integrating IT service delivery. Our clients include global Fortune 500 as well as leading organizations in multiple industry verticals. We partner with ServiceNow, Microsoft, BOMGAR, Salesforce, FireEye, Dynatrace, Big Panda, and MuleSoft. Our ongoing webinar series is designed to inform, enlighten, and start discussions within your own organizations. If you require any additional information after listening to today's webinar, please reach out to us through our website, www.alcortech.com. Today's webinar is also on social media. You can follow, comment, and get regular updates for today's webinar with the hashtag AlcorWebinar. That's hashtag or number sign ALCORWEBINAR. We have time reserved at the end of the webinar for Q&A, so please feel free to type any questions into the questions section. Today's webinar topic is Bringing People Together with Service Automation, presented by Alex Dimitrovic. Alex is Senior Vice President of Alcor Canada and is a results-focused strategic consultant and organizational leader with 20 years of experience, focused on driving strategic advisory, solution design, transformation, and operational excellence for customers and clients. Alex is a certified ITIL V3 expert, Microsoft certified systems engineer, and Cisco certified network administrator. I will now turn the webinar over to Alex.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining today and our ongoing series of webinars today, bringing people together with service automation. As noted, I'm Alex Dimitrovic, and I'm Principal Strategic Consulting and Senior VP of Alcor Solutions. Just a quick overview again on Alcor. A couple of the key things. We are a global organization with folks in offices in a number of cities and a number of countries, including Canada, the United States, and India. We have had the pleasure of working with over 100 customers on over 200 plus projects in ServiceNow, specifically since 2012. We do also have other practices around Microsoft, security, IT, infrastructure management, and service integration and management. We are proud to be partnered with ServiceNow, Big Panda, Microsoft, FireEye, just to name a few. So the discussion today is about bringing people together with service automation. And when we look at an organization, when we look at companies today, we hear the word innovation a lot. And a lot of organizations have a goal of being innovative. One of the challenges, though, is the definition of innovation is fairly vague. For a lot of folks, it's leveraging technology as much as possible, leveraging new technology as much as possible, doing new things. And all of those things are correct, but really the fundamental goal of innovation, in addition to the technology side of the conversation, is specifically innovation is really about bringing people together. We are doing these things in focused around specifically trying to support people in their day-to-day work, to support people in the way that they interact with each other, and to support folks in meaningful performance and work so that they're both happy, productive, and have the tools they need to get the job done. As I mentioned, there's a lot of discussion around innovation, and as a result, there's been a lot of initiatives to try to implement innovation in their organizations. The result, unfortunately, though, is that we've settled in on the cheaper, faster, better model to really drive innovation. What happens when you focus specifically on cheaper, faster, better is that you lose sight of the people aspect of innovation. So when we look at faster and cheaper, well, the result is something that's dipped in ugly sauce with haste and carelessness. If we try to blend cheaper, faster, better, all three of those, it's an impossible utopia. And again, really the key factor is we've forgotten about people when we talk about innovation. So the challenge for us is to figure out what happened, to figure out what the solution is, and then to figure out how to move forward. So let's start and figure out what happened. As I mentioned, really the key has been a lack of focus around people. So why don't we take a quick look at people in an organization, really get to understand what it is that they're trying to achieve, and get some insights in how innovation can help and how specifically people-focused service automation can help. Executives in any organization are looking to do one of many things. That includes delivering results for their shareholders, gaining unique competitive advantage in the marketplace, ensuring high levels of service to customers, and trying to dynamically adapt to changing market conditions. Executives realize there's really no choice but to increase technology's potential by increasing the investment in IT strategies, priorities, and plans. But the only way to really do that is to ensure that real value-driven, growth-oriented, and customer-centric innovation is at the heart of this. Management looks to determine spend and to figure out how to charge back, both internally and externally. They're constantly looking for ways to rapidly respond to changing business needs, to changing vendor landscapes, and to provide employees with tools to be more productive. The challenge is that the traditional spend in IT has been on keeping the lights on. In order to realize the value and realize the goals of executives and shareholders, our management need to focus on investing in technology that is focused on business and people so that we can continue to drive value rather than keeping the lights on. Employees, and these are the folks who are really at the heart of innovation, they have to have a meaningful user experience, and they have to be able to get information easily to make good decisions. They want to be they want to centralize some of the tools that they use today. There's too many tools that do the same thing. It's unclear for folks who does what, and it's almost next to impossible to determine who to contact if you have a question. The key part about our investment in technology and investment in innovation really comes down to only about 40% of the technology that we're implementing is actually being used by our end users and by our customers. We've got to really make a focused investment in technology that's focused on driving a user experience that's meaningful. That alone is going to drive innovation. And the way to drive all of that is to automate across the enterprise so that folks have the tools that are in place to support the work that they do without having to spend a ton of time trying to figure it out, turn it on, update it, et cetera, et cetera. So these are some of the key insights that we've seen, both from Gartner, from the industry, and from working with our customers today. So when we look at the status quo today, the cheaper, faster, better approach, the challenge is we've got a lot of tools out there. We are already using the Tivolis and the Xenos and the Nagios. We've got the security, we've got the infrastructure monitoring, we've got the financial tools, we've got the social media tools, but we don't have them we don't consolidate those in a meaningful way. And we do a lot of work in a very manual sort of way. At the very top level, the executives have very little alignment to corporate strategy with the rest of the organization, and they find it very difficult to measure the cost of IT when there's so many touch points in IT. From a service operation perspective, activities are very responsive. They take a lot longer than they should, and we typically end up spending a majority of our time fighting fires. We have very little service automation. In most organizations, we still use spreadsheets. We still use some of the legacy tools that don't offer an integrated, automated interaction between the various functions. And we have very little data integration and correlation. There's a lot of data out there, but we have very little cross-functional team integration, very little vendor performance data, and no automation of remediation actions of things that are happening at that operational data level. So this is typically the status quo. A lot of organizations to start is look to a centralized book of record, a enterprise platform to manage the operation, the integration, the management, the reporting, and the automation of a lot of the activities that happen across the enterprise. And one of the things that we believe is pivotal in this conversation is a platform like ServiceNow. ServiceNow is an enterprise service management platform. It is a modular-based platform, so there's applications that span the enterprise. But there's an important reason why it's important to centralize and to federate your enterprise service management. And that is you have a common data structure, you have a common platform, so that as you develop new functionality, as you grow into the service automation space, you're doing it within the context of a unified development platform. So you don't have to have as many different standards out there. You don't have to have as many different types of skill sets in order to continue to manage and to grow into this space. So organizations that have initiated the journey into that federated platform of record have seen the introduction of some standard approaches to incident, problem, and change in a much more unified way. The addition of a service catalog, product catalog, asset, inventory information. They've seen the introduction of some cost and project portfolio and resource tools that can be leveraged by everyone across the organization, but the data can be pushed up to the executive level. And we've seen some tools put in place that can allow initial integration, typically one way, so that the ServiceNow platforms can automate task execution, and we can start to map services in our organization to start to focus on a more service-centric approach. So you'll see that one of the big themes in this conversation is service automation, service mapping. With the addition of service into our language, what we start to do is speak from the perspective of our customers, our end users, and focus on technology results that are meaningful to our end users. So the initial foray into this is the introduction of this platform, the integration of some of these infrastructure monitoring, security monitoring, financial transactional data, social media, cloud data, up into our system of record so that we've got some context as we execute our day-to-day operations. Some examples of some of those key functionalities and why we feel ServiceNow is pivotal in this conversation is because it's really focused on the user experience. As what you see on the screen right now is a typical example of a service catalog in ServiceNow presented on a monitor on your computer or presented on your phone. The user experience is paramount in this approach, and you see a lot better interaction with your end users and a lot better buy-in both to your technology and to your processes. From a perspective of management and executive folks, they have a better roll-up of all activities based on the initial implementation to be able to track cost, budget, to be able to track projects and programs and portfolios. And we start to have a much more meaningful conversation across the enterprise because we're speaking in the same terms, we're using the same tools, we're speaking the same language, and we see that we're much more productive and we have a lot more buy-in and we get things done a lot quicker. We also have the ability within a tool like ServiceNow to map services. And what that does is it establishes business impact, it establishes all of the components that are out there that support the various services that we have. The initial foray into service management and the initial foray into service visibility is to be able to define your services, to be able to discover the components that make them up, and to be able to associate these services and these components to the operational data that you are working on day to day, and things like incident, problem, change, project, etc. The next phase in the ongoing journey towards service automation is service availability. And there's a couple of key functions that are introduced here. At the executive level, we start to introduce contracts. We start to introduce the ability to meter vendors. We start to introduce the ability to capture, review, and discuss demand, leading to better prioritized spend, better prioritization of resources, of activities. With the introduction of this standard platform, we see more and more business functions and business departments and organizations building applications or leveraging applications on the platform. HR, finance, legal, facilities, they continue to grow and leverage the platform for unified case management. We have the ability to do some automation at this point by bridging all of the activities and all of the tasks within the various applications seamlessly back and forth, setting up execution plans, setting up workflows that allow us to do some really good automation from both a technical perspective, but more importantly from a people perspective, so that folks have a good understanding of expectations of when they can get something when they order it, who's going to do the work, what they're going to be doing specifically, how long they can expect to get that fulfilled, and to really have a good level of transparency into those activities. By introducing all these things, we're introducing the concepts of service automation, or the early stages of it, by having that level of transparency where folks can have meaningful conversations. We also start to introduce a bi-directional integration in the ServiceNow with the various technology partners organizations have, with the various technology tools and functions organizations have, by setting up the ability to normalize data, to correlate data, to add metadata, to enrich data, to add data intelligence, so that as data is being created in the operational data layer, we could add some business context to it so that folks who are not technical or not as technical can get as much value out of that data as the folks who deal with those technologies day to day. We are not saying that we should get rid of the operational data tools that we have in place. We are not saying that we need to get rid of the folks who manage those tools today. In fact, what happens is, with the opening of the integration and correlation of data between these various systems, we have more meaningful discussions, more meaningful planning, and more meaningful interactions and integrations. The folks on the Tivoli team may today work specifically in their own space with very little interaction with the rest of the organization. With the advancement of service availability and the interaction of data, we start to see the value more and more of the work that the folks on the Tivoli team do, understand which services and which customers that work impacts, and really get to understand how that technology spend can benefit the organization, and to understand how more spend in those spaces, what the return on investment is in a much more meaningful way. So we're really starting to see a maturity of the conversation from a technology perspective, but again, the real key here is to focus on the end user experience. So we have given the folks in the operational data space much better line of sight into some of the strategic imperatives, some of the day-to-day operational challenges, some of the summary of how what they do rolls up into the business and how it impacts the rest of the business. we see the folks who do the day-to-day work in executing, planning, delivering capabilities across the organization. They work much better with each other, with more information, better tools to interact with each other, and much more modern types of tools that they're used to in their day-to-day life. Almost all of our folks in our organization outside of work have Facebook, they have social media tools, they have tools in place that they use that they don't use at work, and they're quite successful with those. What we start to see here is the introduction more and more of some of that social media data as well, which really helps the organization understand, both from a customer perspective and from a employee perspective, how we're interacting and how we're working. So some examples of the service availability, as I mentioned, is the extension of this platform, the extension of the level of information that's available across the organization. So we start to see HR leveraging a common platform with access to information from tools that they never would have accessed before, nor would they have understood how to use that information. Finance, legal, facilities, customer service, they all get tools that they can leverage that have a great user experience as its focus, access to some really good information, and some automation on the background in order to help to execute the delivery of the things that we do day to day. On the management side of things, we have the ability to work across the enterprise and look at defining demand, look at prioritizing demand, look at understanding the value, the cost, the return on investment of the activities, because we're starting to take a holistic approach to the data that's available. The more data that we can provide, the more context that we can provide to a business decision, the easier it is to make that decision. If the decision impacts the entire organization positively, then it's an investment that we definitely want to make. If the risk and the value are too high, based on a number of the criteria that we've captured, whether it's vendor costs, whether it's strategic costs, whether it's the cost of auditing and monitoring these things, we have the ability to make decisions without having to review all of the core data. We just review the results and we make some meaningful decisions based on that. We have, again, the ability to track and to continue to discuss the pain points from a service perspective. So this is a event management dashboard that looks at service availability for business and technology services across the organization. When we go in to have a meeting, we all have common an understanding of what customer purchasing, demographics, order fulfillment, UK billing, what those things are, and we understand what business criticality is, so that when we see that something's red, we know that across the board, that's something that's going to be a priority for us. Everything that's in the green is functioning well in respect to the goals that we've set out. So the final and biggest part of service automation, and again it goes back to our people, is the ability to open up cloud technology, the ability to open up IT, the ability to open up all functions of the organization to all of our employees and many of our customers in a way that traditionally we were very, we would shelter those folks. We start to introduce some automated governance, risk, audit, and strategy, some IT costs and IT finance in a much more meaningful way, so that folks really understand that if you request software, there's a cost to it. If we bring down a service, there's an impact, financial impact. We have much better way to track against goals, so that when you're making decisions in your day-to-day job, you have a tool in place to help you to determine the appropriate level of investment and the appropriate decision, because you have all of that information available to you. We start to see a continued focus on achieving corporate goals operationally. Everything that we do is focused on driving towards the goals of our company and our teams. We want to make a meaningful change, and everything that we do would be focused on that. We would have fewer errors, less operational waste, and frankly, that works out to better conversations with teammates and with folks in the organization. Automation now looks at both incorporating the automation of the things that we have, and in addition adding the ability to automate the request for technology, the implementation, the management of technology in a much more meaningful way. We start to introduce the ability to provision virtualized instances for folks who traditionally wouldn't even know what that is. We have the ability to automate the remediation of technology and business issues without folks having to know specifically what to do or when to do it. We have some really a tool that can provide guidance and work to make sure things happen in a timely fashion. One of the most important things that ties service automation together at this stage is the idea of now federating and coming up with a unified operational data model with both your vendors, with your contractors, with your customers, with your partners, and with your teams. What that allows us to do is to have more meaningful contract renegotiations because we have better understanding and we're aligned on our goals. Our partners and our technology partners have a better understanding of how they can provide value to us, which in turn can help to shape the nature and the structure of their products and their services. And we start to see a much better alignment on measurement and the ability to continue to leverage different kinds of data with the goal of having that available to folks to be able to make decisions, to work in a much more meaningful way, to frankly be a lot happier in the things that they do day to day, and for the organization to continue to grow and to be profitable. And some examples of that are really, we look at this is a cloud resources catalog. This is available in ServiceNow, for example, where end users who, for example, the training department in HR could go in and request a virtual machine with a training environment already pre-configured. It would get spun up. They would get the credentials to log in, and then it would expire after a certain amount of time. We wouldn't have to go through 10 different forms and have 20 different approvals and figure out what to do and when to do it. And in a lot of organizations that have gone down this path, we've seen results, incredibly drastic results, where typically it takes 8 weeks to get an environment up and running and ready for somebody to use it, down to 15 minutes, which is fantastic. From an end user perspective, it empowers our end users. It gives them the ability to feel they're inclusive, they're part of the conversation, and they're part of the feedback, and it happens quickly. The biggest challenge in IT today is that things take too long. Service automation is about getting things done quickly so that folks can continue doing the work that they want to do. It's not about eliminating people, it's about eliminating the time to get things done. Service automation at a executive level is about unifying all of the pieces that we looked at and having the ability to look at it from the top down and from the bottom up in a much more meaningful way. As you can see on this dashboard, I can see my total unit cost breakdown. I can see operationally what's happening in the environment. I can see the projects that are going live this month or next month, for example. And within the course of 30 seconds, I've gained enough information to be able to go in and make some decisions if immediate ones are required. But specifically, if I had to go look for this information at the source, I would be hard-pressed to, number one, find it, number two, to do it in a quick, meaningful way. So a real shift in the conversation. We have some meaningful data for folks. And for the folks that are much more technical, what we're seeing is the introduction of manufacturers coming up with standard integrations from both a data perspective and from an automation perspective, so that we can work with the tools that we already have. A lot of organizations have invested in InfoBlocks, in F5, and System Center. They're using EC2, they're using Azure. What we're starting to see is the ability for standard functions and pretty much a majority of the functions that would be leveraged on these platforms and with these products available to end users in the execution of the day-to-day work that they're doing. It helps the folks who work in our organizations because they have increasing amount of tools in support of the work that they do. And you have much better conversations and functionality available to you the further that we go down this road. And the most important part is that we start to see and leverage some very modern, very innovative tools that are in the marketplace today. Traditionally, we couldn't invest in some of these technologies because our legacy technology just did not work. It did not compute. With a modern platform as your central book of record for service management, with the integration layer where you have some very, very powerful tools transacting, processing data, you have the ability to invest in newer tools, more modern tools that are much more productive, much more efficient and cost-effective, frankly. And some of these tools are tools that folks are used to using at home. Slack, HipChat, for example. There are standard integrations into a platform like this because it's a modern platform that allow you to leverage that functionality as an enhancement or an alignment with the tools that you're using to really give folks a toolbox that's pretty impressive. So as a summary for all those things, as we started off the conversation, we noted that innovation is really a top of mind for a lot of folks across the enterprise, across organizations, even at home. We talk about innovation. There's been a lot of discourse on what innovation is, and honestly, if you take the people factor out of innovation, if you take the people factor out of technology, you're going to come up with a solution that is really might be fit for purpose in the short term, but in the long term, you're going to lose the user experience, and you're going to lose the buy-in from the folks that count. Alcor is very focused on this service automation architecture framework. We have invested heavily in cloud technology partnerships. We're very focused in enabling the cloud, and we believe that we've put together one of the most comprehensive integrated strategic solutions to moving from this legacy world to this new automated approach to information across the enterprise, because we specifically focus on unifying people in an effort to create ongoing value. Alcor works in various functions with various tools. We typically focus in IT service management, IT operations management, security management, business service management, and service integration management. And within each of these areas, we offer our customers strategy and design, implementation and integration, operation and remediation. We have been very successful in implementing this approach, and we've seen tremendous results with the customers that we worked with on this. And that's
Awesome.
the end of the presentation.
Excellent. Very interesting information. Thanks very much, Alex. Um, there are a few questions. I'll get to them in just a moment. As a reminder for everyone attending, please use the question section to ask a question on today's topic. Alex, who in my organization should be the catalyst for this kind of change?
That's a great question, Jeff. So it really goes to those. It really goes to those three areas. Obviously, you know, the decision to spend money in an organization is really centered at the management and executive levels often. But it's our opportunity as employees and as managers and even executives in the organizations to bring forth these ideas and these thoughts. The important part of this conversation is that we're not asking organizations to introduce new technology directly. A lot of these tools we have in place today. Some of them we have, some may have more of them than others. But what we're asking to do is to invest in further getting value out of some of the tools that we currently have so that we can move towards the tools that we want to have to continue this conversation. So the answer really, Jeff, is that everybody in the organization should be bringing forth you know, technology solutions and leveraging cloud solutions that are available to us these days. Makes
sense. Next question. How long does this type of journey take?
Another great question. So a lot of our organizations today, folks on the phone, on this call, on this webinar, if we're honest with ourselves, we spend a lot of time fighting fires. So the urgency of this is pretty high. How long does it take us to start to remediate and to mend the innovation challenge that we have today with service automation? Really what happens is we start off by implementing the first function, which is the visibility, to show folks the value of interacting better, and you can do that pretty quickly over the course of a couple of months. Start to introduce some of the things that we do day to day that are very manual. Start to automate that so that we see we can do things much faster, much quicker. And what happens with a lot of organizations is that you get a lot of line of sight really quickly from the rest of the organization, wanting to know how you went from zero to hero so quickly. So the first 3 months are really a lot of fun, and you start to show a lot of value, and then you start to see a lot of organizations jump into the fold. So the initial period of 3 months is where we start to show value. The 3 months to 9 months is where we share the results, and from 9 months on is where we start to really pick up steam. So within the course of about a year or two, we can expect to see organizations really make a dramatic shift from legacy technology to a more centralized and meaningful interaction with cloud computing.
Okay. Let me look here. Last question. Is there an industry that is best suited for this kind of transition?
Yeah, so we've worked in banking, we've worked in government, we've worked in military, we've worked with insurance, telecommunications, with hospitality, technology. A lot of organizations, regardless of what kind of an organization it is, can really see meaningful movement in this space, where the organizations that traditionally see the most are the ones that are really open to change, and a lot of times the Silicon Valley type organizations will traditionally move towards this a little bit faster. But the funny part is that traditional things like banking, government, insurance, they're right behind. They're not that far behind because, again, we're not talking about a market or a segment or a type of product, we're talking about people. And we're automating the way that folks interact with each other, and that really resonates regardless of which market segment you work in.
Right, right. Makes sense. All right, I do not see any more questions on the board, so thanks very much, Alex. The recording of today's webinar will be available on our website, www.alcortech.com, and on our social networking sites. Thanks everyone for joining. See you at the next webinar.